Hello, sisters, and Momo. Mama, God. Cute. I love how Lavender was like, we're in a staring contest with Momo. I was like, no. Momo is basically asleep with her eyes open. She's like, and you think that it's like, people think it's intense or she's angry or something. I'm like, no, she's like asleep. Momo, are you scary? Are you serious? No. You're just a floof. You're a floof, Momo. Look at me being all feminine with my speech and pitching it up high. Mama, you're a baby. I mean, she's not. She's like 7 or something. Ow, dude, what the hell? Why you attack me? Okay. I mean, Lavender, at least it's a Tool commercial. So I'm trying it out probably till like mid-April to like have the skippable ads on all my videos. And I'm gonna see if I meet the minimum threshold to make any money. If I don't, I'll just take all the ads off. I don't know. I just thought I might as well try it because I've never really tried to like. I've had the ability to monetize for like a year or 2 now, and I never really done it. I don't know. You got makeup, but no. Oh, Nung says, I've noticed that women who speak Ojibwe have a much lower voices than other settlers. I'm near 5,000 subs, yeah. I haven't really, like, gained a lot of subs in a long time. Okay, alright. So, I'm sure a bunch of you have thoughts and feelings about the Posey Parker stuff, but we're not going to discuss that in this stream. I'm going to do another stream after this to, like, compartmentalize it, and I'll probably delete that. Just because I want women to feel free to say whatever they want, and I want myself to feel free to say whatever I want. It's pretty, like, apt. Yeah, like, right after this. It's pretty apt that this chapter talks about, like, women censoring themselves, women being labeled as, like, you know, scolds and gossips and stuff. Like, the value of gossip, the value of women's, like, ability to really listen to each other and remember what each other are saying, considering like the Posey Parker stuff and like the like infighting stuff that's going on. Anyway, we'll discuss that later. Okay, so at least YouTube recognized my butchiness. Yeah. I would like to make this, my goal with these discussions are like 20 minutes. Let's see how it goes. First of all, I'd like to apologize for like pushing back the stream like 2 times. I didn't really have like a realistic view. Like this week, like I literally got home from work like 30 minutes before I started the stream today. This week I worked 6 days a week. I worked on my morning job, I worked like 30 hours this week, and in my evening job, I worked like a little bit more than the week before. So like I worked a lot more this week than I than I usually do. I have like this plan for like my summer trip that I'm like I need to like make more money and save more money and stuff. Oh, also my embroidery stuff. I have expanded my horizons with what I'm going to try to do as like a vendor this summer. I think my plan right now is pretty like detailed. I need to like get a bunch of stuff organized and like get my products organized. But after I do the summer like vendor stuff, I'm going to give myself like a few weeks to chill out and like September to get back into work. And then I think I'm going to set up some kind of an online business. It probably is not going to be like an actual Etsy shop or anything because they keep like getting rid of the turfs. It might be like an Instagram account where you can like, there'll be like a reference number on each picture and you can like send me an email and like PayPal or something. I don't know. But I feel like it might be like a jumping off point to start making money off of my YouTube stuff. Anyway, possible person, what's up? Okay. Mama. Let's discuss the chapter. I used to have a couple of different Etsy shops. But that was like years ago. They took a lot smaller of a cut and it was just like way less competitive and way less complicated than it was. That was in like 2014 or something like that. Okay, let's go through this. So I thought it was interesting that she brought up the concept of, she didn't say brain sex. She was like differentiation in, I don't know what was the term she used exactly here. Sexual dimorphism. Okay, so she was talking about brain sex. Yeah. But she wasn't saying that there was like a female brain. She was like, these are characteristics that we associate with female brains and male brains. It was interesting. And like, this was published in 1983. And she even says we won't know for a long time whether any of these theories make any sense or are like scientifically validated. There are general trends that are more observable in female or male brains, but they're not like prescriptive. They're just like observations. As far as I understand it, I'm not a fucking science person in any way, shape, or form, but the research I've done and what I've read, that's what seems to be the case. You can't look at a brain and say this is a male brain. You can say the general trends in this brain might be more applicable to a female or a male, but you can't look at it and say what it is. Okay. Well, it's good you're spending time outside, Apostle Person. That's like great. Yeah. Right. So I find that interesting. Okay, so she basically, like reading between the lines or whatever, maybe that's not the right term, but she talks about how women's expected and acceptable speech was to be like demure, was to be complimentary, was to not talk about things that had any real impact, right? And as a consequence and as like a support to that effort, women weren't supposed to be educated, right? So it was so interesting the way that Rousseau put it. Like, women should know enough. Basically, like, this is how I understood it. Rousseau said women should know enough so that when they get married, they can like flatter their husbands and like have an intelligent interest in their husbands' like interests. But they shouldn't know enough to say like I like this book and dislike this book and like disagree with their husbands on anything. Which was like for most of, like, okay, musician time. You know Vivaldi, the composer. For a decent portion of his like professional career, he worked at I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like an orphanage for like teenage girls in Venice, and they all got trained in music. And so he would like write stuff and they would premiere it because he was like their music teacher. So there's like a lot of like really good music that the first people who ever played it were these orchestra of teenage girls in Venice. And he was like kind of pissed off by like a lot of their limitations because as far as the school saw it, the only purpose for these girls to learn music was to like flatter their husbands or to like look good once they got married to like their counterparts, right? Anyway, uh what was my point? Oh yeah, like Mozart too. Mozart's sister was, as far as we can tell from the records we have, as gifted as he was. Up until I don't know like the age, like 8 years old or something, like quite young, they actually toured together and played together. Like their abilities were like basically the same as far as like most historians can tell. And yet Mozart was the one who got sent on like tours of Europe. At some age it was decided that it was unseemly and like whatever, obscene, that his sister should be traveling around playing music for people. So she stayed at home so that she could learn to like fucking, I don't know, do embroidery or whatever the fuck. And he didn't. And he became like a womanizing piece of shit, obviously. Um, and a really famous composer, and she didn't. And the only difference was that he was a boy. Anyway, so that's like another thing of like, oh, you can play music really, really well. Probably as much as this like super genius. But because you have a vagina, keep that shit at home, and like we're not going to publish anything under your name because it'll make it look like you disrespectful or something. Anyway. You know, like, okay, Mozart used to do this thing where, like, the Vatican, they had a bunch of music composed for them that, like, they basically had, like, a patent on it. Like, they had, like, ownership of it. No other masses. Like, composers would write masses for them. It's, like, 5 musical portions to a mass. And they owned them. And they weren't supposed to be copied or played anywhere else. Mozart, because he was a super genius, would, like, go into, like, the Vatican and sit there and listen to the whole mass and then go home and write the whole thing down because he was like, fuck you to religion. And I wonder, like, if his sister ever did stuff like that, like, fuck you to men, you know? Like, I wonder what his sister was doing that was never published or written about. Anyway, whatever. Okay, enough about music. So, yeah, so this whole idea of, like, what women's acceptable speech was and what their acceptable education was went hand in hand and reinforced each other. Lavender says Chomsky. Workers only need just enough knowledge to perform their functions, but not enough to want to rebel against the system or change anything. The same applies to women in straight relationships. Agreed. Like, the handful of female composers before, like, the 18th or the 19th century who were prolific at all were, like, indulged by male relatives with a lot of money. So you had to be in a position where you didn't need to get married, and even if you were in that position where you didn't need to get married and somebody was going to fund your education and fund your, like, productions and stuff, they were still seen as, like, a joke, and they were all written off as, like, whores. Like, literally all of them were written off as whores. They were basically seen as, like, wait, you spend time with men, with other composers, you spend time with male musicians, and you're not married, or you're married and you shamed your husband by leaving him at home, so you must be a slut. That's, like, the only explanation. And I think, like, as a result of the attitude, there isn't a lot written about them, except that they were, like, whores who thought they could behave like men. Anyway, enough about that. Like, okay, but, like, sliver of hope. There are a lot of, like, music libraries in Europe where they have, like, thousands and thousands of pages of music that nobody has read, nobody has transcribed, and nobody has performed, like, ever since they were originally written. So there is, like, a chance that there is a female Mozart, and by that I mean, or, like, a female Bach, someone who's written, like, hundreds of concertos and hundreds of sonatas, and, like, I don't know, like, Bach, for example, was, like, a master of fugue. There's a chance that there is a female version of that out there, and that because of her era, because of, like, her time, she didn't become famous. Her work didn't become prolific. She didn't make money off of it, but her music might be sitting in a library somewhere. We might find that there is this woman out there who did write that much music and did contribute that much, but we just don't know her name yet. Anyway, that's kind of, I mean, also there's, like, no money in that shit. Music historians and musicologists who have, like, the rights to go into these libraries and read this stuff, they generally are, like, trying to research specific stuff. They're not going in there to transcribe it, which is, like, to read off of the paper that's really, like, hard to read and, like, write it down on, like, contemporary, like, digital music, like a digital sheet, and then, like, give it to people to perform. So anyway, whatever. Okay. Right, so women are too gossipy and they're a problem. This, to me, when they write about all of these, like, these huge list of all of these philosophers and whatever who were like, women talk too much, women are gossips, it's a problem. My main thought was, like, so men do really shitty stuff and really shady shit, and women witness it, and you forget that they exist or you don't want them to exist. And then when they're like, yo, Did you see this shady shit my husband's been doing? You see the sketchy shit my brother was doing? Like, oh my god, those evil gossips are causing trouble. Like, maybe don't do crappy, creepy shit that if your wives and sisters mention it, you look bad. Like, generally, like, genuinely, the whole, like, 2 pages or whatever, like, that she starts talking about this, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so we talk about the ducking stool, which is, I mostly know of it from witchcraft. I never knew about it in this context, which is like a chair on like a big long stick that's like installed on the bank of a pond or a river or whatever, and then they like strap the woman to the chair and like dunk her into the water. So I mostly know about it in terms of like witch trials, but I don't know who it was. Somebody was like waterboarding. So basically, they were like waterboarding women for like speaking, and then expecting them to repent when they got the ability to breathe. That's from the 1600s U.S. is when she references the use of the ducking. Then she discusses the scold's bridle or the branks, which I'm sure some of you have seen this in the museums. I saw this in museums when I was a kid. I used to go to the Royal Ontario Museum. That's like one of the big museums in Canada a lot when I was a kid in Toronto. Okay, I don't know what the fuck the camera's doing. There we go. Is this the new way to focus the lens? Get something sparkly? Yeah, so the Scold's Bridle, super fucking creepy looking. It's got like a kind of mask mesh thing. And then there's like either like a flat thing that goes in the mouth or it has like spikes on it. And like whenever I saw the spikes, I was like, I don't understand how it's really supposed to like fit in or on your mouth. Like I feel like it can like you like rip the flesh out of your mouth and like cause serious like long-term damage. Maybe that was the point. Anyway, super creepy shit. As she mentions, the these two things could be done to men also for speaking out of turn or speaking too much or saying the wrong things or repeating the wrong things or whatever. But in the minds of the societies where they were used, they were primarily associated with women who talked too much. Okay. Ugh, it's such a like setup. Like femininity is such a con for women. So women are supposed to care a lot about how they look, to differentiate themselves from men, to flatter men that they care a lot about how men think they look, all this crap, like to make themselves look more attractive to men, whatever. There's like a lot of reasons why women are supposed to like invest so much time and energy and money into looking like the feminine ideal. Then when they break a nail, they get a run in their stocking, they break a heel, whatever, and they get upset about it because they spent a lot of time and energy and money and effort to look a certain way. Men are like, oh, those silly women. Like it's just there's like it's like a con. There's no winning. Like you're fucked no either way. Um she talks about like the vocal patterns of men versus women, masculine vocal patterns and feminine vocal patterns. So what when we hear like the gay man like lisp or whatever, what we're hearing according to her is men expressing more emotion in their linguistics than men are supposed to. Like that's my dumbed down version of what she said. Um and we basically read that as feminine because it's usually only acceptable for women to do that. Um which yeah, that makes sense to me. Um, and I think it's also viewed as like a more young woman's thing. Like you wouldn't like think about like the Valley Girl voice, right? Like the California girl type of speech pattern. That's something you really associate with women like under 20 or under 30, right? Not with women in their 70s. Um, So that was like interesting. Like totally. Yeah, so for women to raise things as questions or to leave them like open-ended instead of speaking things definitively, is the first time I went to Women's Land, I was really shocked. Not like shocked, maybe it's a bit strong of a word, but it was like kind of surprising to me. You would have like random groups of women walking past each other in the woods or whatever, or sitting around in a circle at campfire talking. And one woman would start speaking, and another woman would like interrupt or like start another conversation or something. And the older women there would all stop and tell everyone to stop talking. And they'd be like, the woman who started speaking, let her finish speaking. Or if you were in conversation and one woman said something and another woman was trying to respond to her but was speaking quietly or was like speaking to the ground or had her eyes downcast, the older woman would be like, everyone stop. They would turn to the shy woman and tell her, project your voice, speak up, face the person you're speaking to, like go. They wouldn't accept women like being demure. They wouldn't accept women interrupting each other. They wouldn't accept women allowing themselves to be spoken over. Like it really had a huge impact on the way, because like I knew intellectually, I've seen those Tumblr posts that are like a fucking essay with sources that are like, men interrupt women don't listen to each other as much as they listen to men, blah blah blah. Like I've seen all of this stuff like in theory, but actually being in these spaces where women were like, this woman is talking, stop, listen to her. It was like, I don't know, a big deal for me. It really changed the way I thought about things. um uh when I'm in Twitter spaces, I try to be like that now. I try to like leave quiet, like empty space to let women who are shy talk, and I try not to let women interrupt each other. Or if they do, let them finish. I stop them and I go back to the first woman to finish her thought. Um, Anung says, we tried talking circles at Mishfest, but certain women learned how to derail those, usually with tears and theatrics. There are power imbalances in every space. Yeah, true. But I think even like the consciousness to know, like, I have ADHD, and one of the most like visible aspects of my ADHD is the lack of impulse control. And so the result of that is interrupting a lot. And I've worked a lot on that, especially since one of the big things that forced me to work on that was being on podcasts on YouTube. I haven't been on any in like a year now or whatever, but um uh was realizing like when I'm interrupting someone that that's what I'm doing, and realizing if I'm repeating something that they've already said that it's not like productive. Um and I was talking with a friend of mine recently, one of my best friends, and whenever I interrupt someone at this point in my life, I usually stop and like apologize and tell them to keep talking about their original topic, like finish their sentence. And my friend, I was like, how do you perceive it when I interrupt you? And she was like, what I perceive is that you're bored with what I have to say, and so you're saying something else. And I was like, no, when I interrupt you, I'm so excited by what you've said that it's like spurred off a bunch of different stuff in my head, and I have no impulse control to stop all of the like different thoughts that are coming at me because of how interesting the thing you've said is. And she was like, oh. Anyway, the point is, I think that it's like really impactful to be in a situation where there's someone moderating who's interrupting who and how much there's interruption happening, and who is finishing their thoughts and finishing their sentences, and are you listening to them? Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of like my 2 cents as someone with ADHD, bad impulse control, and a big fucking mouth. Also, like, you guys probably don't realize this, but like for my entire childhood, I was constantly being told, shut the fuck up. Like my entire fucking childhood. I have like so many memories of like literally biting my tongue and like sitting on my hands, like staring at the ground and like trying not to speak. and being like crying because I knew that I was like talking too much and saying dumb things, and like I needed to control myself. Like I was like really traumatized about that. It's like one of the most traumatic aspects of like growing up with ADHD for me. Like there was no like behavioral training or like therapy or anything. It was just like shaming me all the time. And being on YouTube like this right now, the discussion period on YouTube have been like really healing for me. I still don't have any confidence that I'm any kind of an authority on anything because I just don't think that's the case. But I do think it's given me like a lot more confidence in speaking. Even my phrase structures, like the first year of my YouTube videos, if you go back and watch like my first couple of YouTube videos, you'll just see the way that I structure my phrases. It's a lot less assertive, a lot more just like less assertive, a lot more hesitant. The language that I use is much more like vague. I'm not like I've gained a lot more confidence doing this, so I don't know. Like a lightning storm in the brain, says Anant. Yeah, exactly. Um, anyway, okay. Um, oh yeah, so my point is, okay, not to like compare myself to a woman of color because that's not like the comparison I'm trying to make. But when this Chinese woman got to the US and she was like, my teachers kept sending me to speech therapy. Um, I kind of related because I was like, my parents sent me to speech therapy because I thought that I wasn't articulate enough and like I spoke too much without saying enough or whatever the fuck, and that like my language was too limited or something. Or like I don't know what the fuck that they thought the problem was because I have been like a voracious reader from a very young age, so I've always had a very big vocabulary. But definitely when I was a teenager, there was like a huge divide by the way between the way I spoke and the way I wrote. Several times in high school, I was sent to like the principal's office for plagiarism because my written work was like so advanced sounding that they thought it wasn't me writing it. Anyway, whatever. Lavender says the rad fem analysis is what attracted me to your channel, and Momo in the background. Yeah. Momo, you a celebrity? Boo boo. Shoo shoo. If you want to see more of Momo, follow me on Twitter because I post pictures of her there, usually with like feministy backgrounds. You will eat the bugs says women's voices have lowered a lot in the last 50 years. Yeah. I also think it's interesting oh, you're locked. I thought you said I blocked you. I was like, I don't think I blocked you. Um if you DM me, I'll follow you or something. I don't know. I can follow you back if you want, turf mail. Megan Murphy got you banned from Twitter? Or is there a different MM that you're referring to, Lavender? I mean, I've been banned from Twitter a few times. I have like my one account, the non-compliant les, because that's like GNC centric, gender non-compliant. And then I have like a couple of anonymous Twitter accounts now. I like to like Twitter is like one of the only social medias that I still try to use that I've been banned from. So I have like a lot of backups. Yeah, well, not surprising. A lot of women who got to the status of like big public turf you know, like that's for the next stream, the stream that we're gonna have in like 5 minutes. Okay, you're on your fourth account. Yeah, I'm on my, I think my fifth Twitter account. Well, since I was a GC, because I used to be like a radiqueer, and then I had my whatever. Oh, I also have a Getter account, right? And I have a Spinster account. The drama on Getter got so crazy, I just like deleted the app. I think my account is still there. I always wonder like when I remember that I have it, that I should like go and look and see if I've got more followers or lost all of them. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So yeah, women phrasing things as questions, being less assertive. Um, Listen to this phrase. Gossip is feared because it is disrespectful of the mighty when it exposes personal behavior at odds with public pretense. That's what I mean. Um, Men like to look respectable, but obviously behind closed doors, they're like all little shits. Women witness that crap because they're behind closed doors with the men, usually the victims of the crazy shit the men are doing. And then they mentioned it, and then the men are like, wow, well, you fucking evil women spreading lies and horribleness. Like, you know, maybe don't be a shit. Are y'all on over it? I used to be. Uh, I found it like a really small sphere of women on over it, at least in the first year or so. And then, I mean, honestly, I just don't really like to spread out onto new platforms. I've been on Twitter since I was like 13 or whatever. It feels comfortable to me. Uh, yeah, it's not super healthy or anything. Oh, Giggle. I was on that for a bit too, but there's not a lot. It hasn't reached critical mass. Yeah, that's my. I've heard a lot of women who've had issues on Over It with being like censored. Um, the whole way that Over It was like created and who was involved and how that um, rolled over into the content that was posted on the site. It's quite messy. Um, so something that she didn't mention that I kind of want to mention is so she talks about female humor, right? There's like a couple of different like theories of what humor is, like what the origin of it is. One of the like concepts of humor is you need to know the truth of something so that you can like satirize that truth or like mock that truth, right? I think that part of why humor doesn't come off as well for women in like mixed sex groups is that when they try to satirize or mock something, you have to believe that they have the authority to know the real truth of it in the first place, right? And I don't think that a lot of people see women as authorities or take a woman's perspective as the truth for her to mock the truth. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it comes like I don't know if I'm expressing myself well, but if you don't see a woman as an authority, you can't see her as mocking truth. Anyway. Um Shahar, are you Dawn from Twitter? Okay, good to see you here, Dawn. I was thinking of you when I was trying to. There was like, yeah, the Sholem Aleichem. I think I mispronounced it, and I was like, fuck, she's watching. She knows I mispronounced. Okay. Um, Throughout the whole part where she was talking about Virginia Woolf and George Eliot and all that, and the Bronte sisters, I was thinking a lot about female composers, female music writing. And I mean like classical. Well, I don't mean classical in terms of the time period. I mean classical, like not like a guitar and a microphone. Um, because even in this year, like in 2023, there are women composers in academia because they don't really exist outside of academia except for like a handful who write for video games and movies who are like being told that they write like women or that they're trying to imitate men or whatever. And like I would love to read an entire book that was an analysis of like by like a feminist, I don't know, like theory professor or like a feminist musicologist or something analyzing like the male styles of writing music and like if there's a difference between the female styles of writing music and like the evolution of that and like what that really means. I don't know. I would love to read like a feminist analysis of that that's like adjacent to the analysis of language. Okay. So the conclusion, we're pretty good on schedule, 35 minutes. Like I aim for 20 minutes because I'm like, I want to at least be under an hour. So we're doing pretty decent with the schedule. Her conclusion of this chapter is that women play it safe when it comes to language. And oh, come on, shininess. Save us from the shitty focus. Focus. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, I give up. Her conclusion of this chapter is that women play it safe when it comes to speech, whether it's written or spoken. And I think that's definitely true. You even see women want the content of what they have to say and the content of what they write to be taken seriously. And I think a lot of women, including myself, know that you need to play to your audience. The best example I can think of when it comes to myself. The best example I can think of when it comes to myself is I'm like pretty misandrist. So when I try to explain feminist concepts to women who I know will not be dude, this camera is new. It just doesn't like me. It does this every once in a while where I mean it's not new, but it's like a good camera that's like relatively new. Yeah, but like I'll change which vocabulary I'm using, or I'll take out certain things that I mean to say and leave only the points. I don't know. I think women are really good at trying to speak to their audience and like tailoring themselves to that. So, yeah, playing it safe. Anung says we still don't look at content. There's still so much tone policing in the GC community. It's ridiculous. Great. And that sets us off on our next stream. Okay, I'm going to, well, actually, let's do it while I'm on here. I'm going to set up a new stream. And I'm going to delete that one because I have things to say that I know women are not going to be happy with. It won't let me do it while I'm on here. Okay, well, you know what? You'll just have to like reload my Facebook page, my YouTube channel. Okay. No, I don't talk to men. I don't care. I'm not trying to convince men. But I feel like a lot of straight women, if I genuinely tell them what I think about like all men or all relationships with men, they can't hear anything I have to say because it like they get so revolted by it. So I don't know. Anung says you might be surprised. I mean, yeah. Who was it that said? I think it's Dworkin and Right Wing Women who's like, there are no women who hate men more than like the housewife because they fucking spend so much time with men and there's so much of their lives revolve around men. They truly hate men on a level that no one else can understand. Something like that. Yeah, I don't waste any fucking time talking to men. They can fuck off. Okay. I'm gonna wrap up the stream. And I'm going to start a new stream in like 2 minutes to talk about like Posey Parker stuff generally, and then I'm going to delete the stream because I don't want to get engaged in drama, but I do kind of have a few things to say. And I also feel like you guys are an audience who know that I'm just trying to like authentically express my opinion. I'm not trying to like kick anyone while they're down or like I told you so or anything. I just have like some general things to say, and I know that some of you are going to disagree with me. I think it'll be like a good conversation. Okay. Also, just some crazy shit I've seen on Twitter like in the last day or so. So let's talk about that. I'll see you in the next stream in like a few minutes. Just go to my YouTube like homepage and refresh it. It'll pop up. Okay. Bye.